All right, here we go. Pity the fool. That's what we're talking about today. Pitying the fool. Are we? Or maybe not pitying the fool, but I couldn't get that phrase out of my head when I saw fool. So thank you for joining us. Hey, y'all, Pastor Emil here. Another episode of Sweet Jesus here with Scott in the Open Arms Podcast studio. And we're continuing through the parables here, looking at Luke 12, the parable of the rich, what? Fool. Pity the fool. Here we go. And why don't you read it for us there, sir?
Okay. Parable of the rich fool. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbiter over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry." But God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God."
Ouch. Right?
Yes, this hits really close to home right now.
Yeah, why is that?
Because as I'm preparing to go into retirement,
Yes.
I'm trying to gather up whatever I have.
Build bigger barns.
Not necessarily barns, but I do want it to last. And yeah, it's like I don't want to be the fool that's being pitied.
Yeah, well.
And so anyway,
I mean, it's a common thing. There's plenty of scriptures that encourage you to build up a little bit over time, right? I mean, who is this rich fool? Is he at the end of his working life? I would assume no. Like he just had kind of a windfall sort of thing, and he's just looking to use it for himself, right? I mean, he's like, woo, look at how much I got. I can just sit back, relax, eat, drink, be merry. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, that's kind of what a lot of people think when they retire, right?
It is. And, you know, the idea of retiring early even, FIRE, F-I-R-E, financially independent, retired early. There's like a whole group of people, kind of a movement where they live on as little as possible, they save as much as possible, and they try to get retired at 30 or 40 or 50 or, something like that. So it's out there. I don't know.
I had ideas like that. My kids had other ideas.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they said, "Hey, tell my parents to divide the inheritance with me."
No, they said, let's have fun things to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it was worth it. It was.
So I don't know that this means you shouldn't save or that you shouldn't be wise with your money, but certainly this desire to retreat from anything and everything of any meaning or purpose, that the purpose ultimately of wealth is not so that you can do nothing forever. It's not about you. I was actually very interested. Columbus Day was Monday, and obviously people have hated on Columbus for a very long time. So I was interested when I saw a few things where people were kind of like, I don't know, Columbus apologists.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire, I think.
Yes,
he's
the Daily Wire.
Catholic.
Yes.
And he's apparently like a defender of Columbus.
Yes.
I didn't know this.
Well, Columbus is considered a patron saint, I guess. I don't know if he was ever sainted, but
I don't know.
I don't know that either, but I'm not Catholic, or we're not Catholics.
Yeah. There was a lot of interesting stuff that he shared, things I hadn't heard. I saw a lot of things I had never heard before the last couple of days about Columbus, but one thing in particular that I think it was Michael Knowles, he said that, yes, he was trying to gain wealth or something. That was part of what he was doing, but part of it was also spreading Christianity. And then the wealth part, apparently, there was a purpose for it, and the purpose was so that he could finance like a crusade or something. And not because he wanted to go and murder people, but because it was right around the time that the Moors, or the Muslim invaders, were finally pushed out of Spain, around the time that he's getting ready to sail west. And he wanted to help push that further to save his Christian brothers and sisters and others in Jerusalem or something like that. I'm not sure on all those details, but the point was he had a purpose for the wealth that he was trying to generate as part of this, expedition. I mean, that's pretty crazy you don't have to work anywhere near that hard to generate wealth today.
Right.
I mean, it's just unbelievable the kind of stuff that he went through, but he had a purpose. It wasn't, again, supposedly, I didn't do a lot of research. I got a few little things here and there that were kind of interesting, and I think it adds to this point that the purpose of the wealth should not be sit back, eat, drink, be merry. Is that maybe a piece of it? Yeah, you should enjoy life. I don't think God wants us to never enjoy anything ever. I don't know that he wants us to be completely miserable all the time. I mean, Lutherans are just good at that. That doesn't mean
okay.
That doesn't mean that's what God.
I think Catholics have us beat.
You think so?
Yeah. The ones I know do anyway. That's what they think.
Maybe the super committed Catholics, because most of the Catholics, I mean, they go out, like, this is a stereotype of Catholics, at least, that they go out Saturday night and then they show up Sunday morning and they get forgiven everything they did Saturday night.
Right.
And it's like
yeah, I guess it might be some of the more super committed Catholics.
And
because I bristled in my younger days. I bristled when there was a person like that, and he just kept wanting to talk about suffering all the time. I'm like, I don't want to suffer. I want to have a good life. What's all this talk of suffering?
Well, it's not to say that we shouldn't embrace. I mean, Jesus says, take up your cross.
But I understand the suffering part now that I've lived life a little longer.
Life is suffering.
Life is suffering.
You can't avoid it.
Jordan Peterson rung it and probably helped. Well, I probably knew it before that, but he definitely made it obvious.
Well, and he's I didn't know that his daughter put out a video about it too. I don't know if you saw that, but
I saw the one his wife commented on. His wife commented on one, had a video out.
So his daughter made a post on like Instagram or something, and I saw that. But then last night I saw, there's a video too. It's like 10 days old where she's trying to talk about this. She's reading from a teleprompter and then she gets emotional. But it sounds bad.
Yeah.
Like it was bad and it is bad. It's better, but it's still bad. So, life is suffering. But, what Martin Luther was dealing with at the time in, 500 years ago, I mean, he was actually actively harming himself because it was sort of like, well, if I can inflict suffering on myself, I'm sort of earning a place. I'm earning the right to call myself a Christian, to access this treasury of merit that Christ has won. And it's just all backwards. And I'm not saying that that's exactly how it is today. And I wasn't trying to hate on Catholics. Those stereotypes, by the way, I've heard from Catholics. So it's not like I made this up. I think there's also a Billy Joel song that kind of, there's some references in there that, it's like, we're like Catholic schoolgirls, like they're just kind of crazy and all. I think that's sort of the reference in one of these Billy Joel songs. I don't know. But
he or the laugh with the sinners and cry with the saints.
Yeah,
that's that's the quote I was thinking when you said that.
Yeah, but but that wasn't. There's more. There's something else in one of these songs that I'm just not thinking of right now. But all of this to say, it's okay to enjoy life, but if it's all about yourself, self-indulgence, you missed the point, right? We're here for a reason. This is temporary. This is, to obsess about what it is we can enjoy right now at the expense of the work that God has for us now. That's not good. I mean, the Sabbath itself is meant for enjoyment. There's some interesting work. This guy, I sent a video into the group text with the guys about Joel Bierman, one of my professors from seminary. And he actually has a lot of stuff out there on work and rest. And I've heard other people talk about this too. But, when we were created, when human beings were created, on the sixth day, what was the first thing we got to do?
I don't remember.
Well, what comes after day 6?
Oh, we get to rest.
But not like we just sat back and slept all day. We enjoyed that's what God is doing. He's enjoying his creation, all that he had made, right? And so there's like a party. Our first day was a party. And that's what that was supposed to be. There's work, and there was work even before the fall, and there will be work even in the future, but you're allowed to enjoy yourself. You're allowed to enjoy the fruits of your labor. God, if we're in the image of God and God himself rests to enjoy the fruit of his labor, we should be allowed to enjoy the fruit of our labor. But that's not what this guy is doing. This guy is looking to enjoy a permanent party at the expense of his labor for his neighbor. Right? That's why we're here. To care for creation, to care for our neighbors, to be a servant. As Christ serves us, we serve others. So to sit back and relax and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you can do that. But if your goal is to do that permanently, you missed the point. And I think Jordan Peterson, back to him for a second, I think he's actually got a couple of things I've seen, clips and whatever, where it's like, yeah, going to sit on a beach and drink margaritas or pina coladas or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, that'll only feel good for what?
A week or
a
something.
week or two, or
Yeah.
I mean, 6 months. Holy cow! What are you doing?
He's like, yeah, seriously, people, this is not a retirement plan.
Yeah, this is not how you. Yeah. So it's about transitions, and I think you made a reference in when we were talking yesterday about like people who they retire and 5 years later they're dead, or 6 months later, or 9 months later, and there's something about having a purpose, having work to do, that keeps us going. It's good for us. It's necessary. The issue is, of course, that no one may be willing to pay you. So you should be wise with your money and save. But again, not, build bigger barns so I can hold more stuff, which is kind of the American way right now.
Yeah, I've got a neighbor, which he built this huge shelter where he has a lot of stuff in it. He had a small one, but he built a bigger one. So, I mean, good for him. I don't have a problem with it, but
yeah, and again, it's not to say.
I mean, he's not out there. I think he's working, but when he goes, he enjoys his, that.
Yeah, and that's not to throw judgment at any particular person with any particular plan. I mean, you end up with kids and grandkids, and you want to have a nice big vehicle to go and see them or bring them around, and go camping or go whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad. But what does he say at the end? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Right? So being rich toward God is the issue. Being generous towards God and his purposes, because that's ultimately what it takes you outside of yourself, right? So you can't actually truly enjoy rest. You can't truly enjoy this life without having it in the proper perspective. Or to use Augustine, if anybody actually understood what I was trying to say a few weeks ago on Sunday, this idea of disordered loves. When you love things out of order, it messes up everything. It destroys the thing you love the most if it's not God. So you love your kids, but you love your kids so much that you protect them and you smother them, and you don't let them experience real life. You don't let them make bad choices. You don't let them learn from their mistakes and suffer the consequences of their poor choices, right? You destroy them because you love them more than you love God, and being faithful to God and raising this child and disciplining this child into being the person that God wants them to be, not you. You also destroy everything else, right? Because your marriage is a mess because all you care about is your kids. Your career's a mess because you only care about your kids. Your everything else is a mess. And then you put your career number one. Well, all these other things, it destroys the career. Oh, I got to be number one. I got to be at the top. I got to get the promotion. I got to this. I got to that. It destroys the career because you'll do whatever it takes. And sometimes that isn't ethical or honest or, It's like the Bugs Bunny clip I showed. You remember that with the big abominable snowman? I don't know if you were here.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, ooh, and he picks up, squeezing, I will love him and pet him, and,
No.
He's loving it to death. He's loving his bunny to death, right? A real bunny. And I actually read, when I was looking for that video, I read something that apparently it was modeled after Of Mice and Men.
Mm.
Lenny and the bunny rabbits or something, where he loves them to death, right? Like he literally loves them to death. That's what we do.
And you will call him George.
Old George, yeah. But so when you're rich towards God first, it keeps everything in its proper order. God first, me second, God first, others second, me third, actually, right? And you can truly enjoy the rest and the joy of this life, the blessings of this life. And you don't get called a fool by Jesus in a parable. He doesn't use you as an example, a sermon illustration.
It reminded me of that, I don't know, what do you call it, like a movement kind of thing, like the What Would Jesus Do kind of thing that went around. And they had that.
WWJD,
Yeah, then they had the I'm Second.
Yeah.
And there was a series of videos. And I kept, after I watched it and stuff, I was saying, you should really be third. Right?
Yeah.
God first, your neighbor second, and then you third or whatever. But
most of those popular things, movements or whatever that get started, terrible theology.
Oh, okay.
Almost all of them.
It was off a little bit.
Well, that's why, Lutherans tend not to embrace a lot of them. It's very, theology is a lot more complicated than, a single line. Catchy phrase, yeah.
Marketing line.
Because you could listen to Martin Luther and get the feeling that, oh, yeah, we just do whatever we want. And then you could, because he's just so strong on grace. And then you can read other stuff from him and you go, oh, my God, I better get my act together. Because he's pushing both truths. And life is really about maintaining attention, not moderation. I actually watched a video about this last night. Maybe that's why it's in my head. Joel Bierman, actually. Maintaining the tension, which is not moderation, in saying that, well, I'll just do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. No, it's actually all 100% God. You are saved by God. That's it. Grace. Divine monergism, the fancy term. But at the same time, get your act together. Right? God makes us holy through faith in Christ, but work out your salvation in fear and trembling. Philippians 2, I think.
Read less comics, read more Bible.
Yeah, like you were saying, we were talking about Superman before we got started. Apparently, Scott was convicted about his incredible comic book knowledge.
Yes.
And what did it inspire you to do?
I read the whole Bible from cover to cover. I mean, I'd read the Bible before, but I mostly New Testament, maybe some Genesis, and then maybe just hit bits and pieces, like, oh, I don't know about that, but never just through the whole thing. So we had one point in church, we had to read the Bible in a year. Everybody was participating. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to really do this. This is good because I've never done it. Because I could tell you the history of Superman, Batman, you name the comic book character, and I could probably, there's probably some really obscure ones that I might not know that much about, but anyone that you could mainline, any of the Avengers, any of that, I can probably tell you stuff about it. Like my kids probably don't like it because we'll watch the Marvel movies, and it's like, well, that's not really the way they did it in the comics. Really, in the comics, he was like this, and it's like they just look at him like, oh, brother, Dad, there goes Dad.
That's like me watching The Chosen.
No.
Or House of David, or some of these other biblical, that's not exactly how
it was. I guess this is off the track, but Iron Man in the Marvel universe, in the movies, he basically was the character. It was such a good movie. Yeah, we can do this. We can have a Marvel universe. Once they did the first Iron Man. But in the comics, yeah, he was in the Avengers, but he was not really, he was like a secondary character. He had his own comics for a while, but it didn't last. It just wasn't, I guess, well written or interesting or whatever. It kind of would come and go. The movie version is better, way better.
Well, Robert Downey Jr.
Exactly.
He is Tony Stark. Like, he just, that
But see, that Tony Stark was like that, but he was not really ever like that. He didn't have the personality in the comic. He was just, they never wrote him that well, I guess.
Well, I don't think you can write Robert Downey Jr.
I guess.
Like, he is just...
Yeah, there's that third dimensional part of him, the personality. So, yeah. But anyway, so I digress.
But it's the same idea. Okay, so not moderation as much as both. It's both, right? So love your comics and everything, right? But be rich towards God. Love your comics, love your Bible. If God blesses you tremendously, build something for your family. Do something for your family and enjoy the fruits of your labor and God's blessings, and but be rich towards God as well. And it's not about you. Invite others into that celebratory nature. That be generous towards others, I think, would be also being rich towards God. I'm maybe conflating those two things more than I should, but I think they're at least related.
Well, yeah, that's what I was wondering, because that's kind of, if you just read that phrase, it's like God's got everything, How are you going to be rich towards God? But then, Jesus had something to say about that, right? Whoever you do for the least of me, these you've done for me. So
that's right.
So I guess,
that's right.
So then I conflated that. I think, well, maybe that's how that kind of fits in there.
Being rich towards God is being rich towards those in need who are Jesus. Yeah. Psalm 34:8 is taste and see that the Lord is good. That's how I usually, I forgot that at the beginning here. By the way, I finished my tea with honey. By the way, Jesus loves you a latte. And this is my mug. I got this. There's a group of guys we used to meet for coffee once a week and talk about the upcoming lectionary readings. And I also have this on the other side, the irreverent reverends, because
was that the name of your group?
We're pretty irreverent. I think I may have said it a couple of times, or one of us said it, and then when I was leaving, they gave me that mug, and Jesus loves you a latte. But taste and see that the Lord is good is Psalm 34:8. If you go further in that psalm, I believe it's verse 18, it says that the Lord is near the brokenhearted. And that, combined with Matthew 25, which we've been referencing, where Jesus is saying, well, as you did it for one of the least of these, you did it for me. He's talking about the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, in prison, all these. When you did it for them, you did it for me. I was there. I was them. I was with them. Psalm 34:18. The Lord is near the brokenhearted. Be rich towards God by serving your neighbor, loving your neighbor as yourself. And if you do that, again, I do think we end up, people with the tension, it's hard to maintain the tension because you always end up falling off one side or the other. It's easier to pick a side, to pick a team, to have that pat answer, that's always available. And I don't know that you can be overly rich towards God, but I know that in my own life, like, I do have trouble sometimes celebrating. And if you don't celebrate wins, if you don't celebrate victories and good things, then eventually the rich towards Godness, or the sacrifice, the suffering, some of these things that we've talked about already today, that's impossible to maintain. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. We're not Jesus. And even Jesus celebrated. I mean, he made some pretty awesome wine.
Yeah. I
He
guess so.
started one crazy party. 180 gallons of wine.
He didn't laugh though. Like,
Of course,
he was very serious about making his
course
money.
he laughed. Of course he laughed. Go back and watch the other episode. I don't know what it was, episode 141 or something like that. But yeah, no. So the answer isn't always you can't do anything fun. You have to give it all to God. But it's also definitely, I think this is the one that's most obvious, is that it's not, oh, it's always about me, let me have a party, right? It's enjoy life and the fruits of your labor and celebrate God's good gifts with God's people, with your family and whatever, but while you are likewise rich towards God. It's both of those things. Just like it is God who is the one who is working in you. You're already saved by grace through faith. You can't possibly save yourself. You can't make yourself holy enough to be a good enough Christian, a pure, true Christian, right? God is the one working in you. And yet, come on, get your act together. This is something you should be intentional about. So it's both of those things. Otherwise, you just, oh, well, I'm forgiven, so I'll just eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, you wanted to be in what Jordan Peterson said, the 40-year-old guy at the frat party. He said, if you're the 40,
worse.
yeah, if you're the 40-year-old guy at the frat party, you've got a sad life.
And it's so obvious that is sad, even when you're 19 or 20 at the frat party. You're like, who's that creepy old guy? You don't even have to be 40. You could just be like 28 and or 30, and you're like, what is this guy still doing here?
Exactly.
You know? But, to be fair, that guy obviously needs something. So,
Yeah.
Share the gospel with him. Open up your mouth and tell him the good news of Jesus. Tell him that God loves him and he has a purpose for him, and it's not drinking himself into a stupor every night of the week until he's dead. So, yeah. Interesting point, though, with this, the guy. So earlier, I think it's in chapter 11, Jesus has some things to say about Pharisees. What does he say? Something about lovers of money, I think. But, so you have all this going on before that. Maybe that's in the first part of chapter 12. Well, something, whatever it is, it precipitates this question from this guy. Hey, help me get my brother to divide the inheritance with me. And maybe the guy is thinking, well, Jesus has been talking about all this stuff about money, and clearly my brother needs to hear this sermon.
Of course.
Right? Always somebody else needs to hear the sermon. And so he's like, hey, Jesus, look, I got this guy in my life, my brother, and if he would just stop being so greedy like these scribes and Pharisees, then, I'd get my portion of the inheritance. Not recognizing that he is the guy, like he's being the guy, And, just because you think that people should serve poor people, that doesn't make you honorable. Right? Because actually, Jordan Peterson, here we go. Jordan Peterson Day today. I don't know if you ever heard this. He said that the number one predictor of whether you wanted to redistribute wealth in society is malicious envy. I think he said it's the number one character attribute, where if somebody has malicious envy, they're more likely to want to redistribute wealth.
Okay, I get
Because
you.
it's not that they want to help poor people, it's they want to make you do it.
Right.
And
They want you to share your money
yes.
with all of the rest of us.
Yeah, I don't want to have to do it, but you
Yes.
I'm gonna make sure you do it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Judas does in John 12, where he says, Jesus is anointed by Mary with this very, very expensive, elaborate perfume. And, he's like, oh, this could have been sold for so much money. He may say how much, I forget. But, and then the money given to the poor. And there's a little note in there. The narrator, John, kind of adds this little, because he liked to help himself. He was in charge of the money and he liked to help himself to it. And Jesus just says, you'll always have the poor with you. Let her do this. She's anointing me for burial. She's doing the right thing. Leave her alone. So, and again there, right? Jesus, it's not don't honor God or celebrate God or the things of God, the blessings of God. It's both. You'll have the poor with you. They'll always be here, and you should always take care of them. But in this moment, right now, we're doing this. Like, it's okay. So, this guy. Can you tell my brother to give me money? Please.
Well, that's a good point, though, because you hear a certain group of politicians lately. We're going to make the billionaires. It used to be the millionaires. Now it's the billionaires. We're going to make the billionaires pay more. It's really appealing to somebody who has not a lot of money, right? That you can,
or to people that
but they're
don't
probably
have brains.
Well, that too, but
sometimes
the two of those are related.
Yeah. And maybe that's why, because billionaires they have enough money that they can hide it. There's always a way to hide it. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't pay taxes. I think they already actually do. Was it Elon Musk, upset a lot of Tesla shareholders back a couple of years ago, whatever, because he basically had to pay a tax. He had to sell his stock to buy Twitter, tank the stock because he's selling billions and billions of dollars of stock like every day. It just makes the price keep going down. And then he had this enormous tax bill. So he had to sell even more to make sure he had enough to cover the stuff and pay the taxes. And I think he paid like the highest tax bill ever. Yeah. I think that's when it was. I forget where it was exactly.
So, I've heard him say that. I've paid the most taxes in history of the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. And
I didn't know it was related to that deal, but yeah,
it's really not. It's not that simple. As Jesus says to the disciples, when they've got 5,000 men and then all kinds of women and children gathered around, getting hungry and cranky or hangry, and there's no Snickers bar to satisfy.
Just think if he would have had one, though. He could have multiplied the Snickers bar.
Maybe. And they say, teacher, why don't you get rid of them? Because this is going to get ugly fast. They should go home, back to the villages, buy themselves something to eat. And what does he say? You give them something to eat. Yeah, you give them something. So
is that like a double thing? Like, that I found that a strange thing to say. I mean, we're going off on another story, but I mean, he's saying to do that, but without a miraculous intervention, there's not enough there to give it to everybody, right? Or so it appears. They've just got a few fish and a few loaves, and there's thousands of people. And then he says that, and they're like, well, maybe, man. So is it two things he's saying? Yes, help people. And then if you do that, God will help you help people. He'll multiply maybe what you're helping people with will get multiplied and in some fashion, maybe not in such a miraculous fashion as that, but Maybe
Yeah, I think
you'll help somebody and that'll inspire them to help somebody else or something like that. I don't know.
the principles in that are, you know, yeah, you don't keep pawning it off on everybody else. Find what you have, which maybe isn't enough. Put it to work. Give it to God. He prays, offers it to God. Well, they offer it to Jesus, right? And he prays, and somehow it works. It's not
So there's a lot.
necessarily the miraculous kind of thing, but God's not asking you for the miraculous, right?
Right.
He's asking you for what you have and what you can do, not what you can't do. Which what we talked about the Good Samaritan, I think a few weeks back, which I had done a sermon on. Also, that was one of the things I could probably find the outline I had for that sermon. But it's like, do what you can, not what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
We can't save the world. We can't solve poverty. We can't, all these different things. We can't end wars. We can't, like
So
you and me, average person. I mean, obviously God puts leaders in place to navigate all these big geopolitical things. And it's not to say we don't have a role or influence maybe, or, a voice, whatever it is. But we use those things acting like we're the ones who are responsible ultimately for making these things better or changing them. And that is ultimately at the expense of what we can do, what we probably should be doing. And if we were all doing what we should be doing, I mean, how many homeless people are there? I don't know what the numbers are, but if every congregation in America adopted one, like we sort of ended up kind of inadvertently adopting Axel, our guy, right?
I saw him on the way over here.
He's still walking around, moving pretty good for an old man. But if we all adopted one, what would that do? Not all of them actually want that. He didn't want it for the longest time. He wanted nothing to do with any of that. He liked his, quote, freedom. He was a drinker. He was all of these things. And
everybody's concerned about the strings that are attached.
Yes. Yeah. So it's probably not as many as we think that actually want it. So you got time to adopt one. Same thing like children, right? Children in foster care or babies that need to be adopted, parents looking. I think it was foster care. I forget exactly the numbers, but it was something like if every congregation had, just a very few, right? And you could have families in the congregation that adopted the kids, but then were surrounded by the rest of the congregation. Like we're adopting them too, just not maybe in our house. And we're going to surround you and we're going to help you get like a bigger vehicle, or we're going to help you get what is needed for these kids. We're going to help you raise this kid, support you. Foster care would be empty. So, there's ways to do this. And if we were more focused on solving the problem instead of yelling and screaming at each other about, particular politicians or parties or even policies. I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have ideas about policy, but just do it. Just do it. And eventually people in power will see it and will change, or the people around you will see it, and there'll just be such an overwhelming response that, oh, this is what has to be done. This is the right thing to do. Otherwise, we end up with 51% basically overpowering 49%, and then the 49% hating the guts of the 51%, and the 51% gloating over the 49%, which nobody changes with that, right? It just continues the animosity, and if we can just, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Roe versus Wade was a shock to American culture and judicial precedent. It was just like even liberals, I think, had said that it was just a bad decision, the way that that didn't mean they disagreed with what happened as a result, but it was just not a good legal way of doing it. And then what did you have? You had 50 years of a fight, and then they get it changed, and then what happened? More abortions than ever, and the people that still want it are fighting. It's so you using.
I bet that's slacked off though, but
you think so? I haven't looked
I don't
recently,
know either, but I bet.
I think the
it
principle is still.
The principle's still there. But,
that
well, that's my
51
hope,
over 49.
Yeah.
Like, we just yell and scream at each other. You can't, like, say uncle, like that kind of.
So the next time on Facebook, I should ask that guy that we were talking about. And so, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. What are you doing to solve this problem? That's what we should.
Besides railing at the machine.
Well, but you should be asking yourself that question, because if you if you say it to somebody else, that's kind of like, I mean, I don't know. We should be saying that. We're saying it now, obviously. What are you doing? How are you helping? What are you going to do about it? You give them something to eat. You be rich towards God.
Or are you saying a less judgmental way, maybe, yeah.
I mean, there are
what do you recommend to solve this problem?
Well, back Elon Musk again, somebody criticized him at some point a few years ago. Maybe it was around the time that, he was selling those shares and he paid this tax bill or whatever. Somebody called him out on Twitter and said, with all that money you have, which he doesn't have money, he has companies that he owns that are worth stuff. I mean, I'm sure he's got money too, but it's not like when you see he's
and
worth.
Imagine going to the lunchroom with him and goes, hey, could you spot me 10? I ain't got no cash for lunch.
You're like,
really?
I think they'll just let you through. I mean, you own the company, SpaceX or whatever. Just, I don't know if they have cafeterias or not, but he, somebody called him out on Twitter about, if you just took this much, you could solve hunger now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've tried that as a country.
But so his response was, I will write you a check. Tell me how you're going to solve it. Never got a response. Because it's just far more complicated than that.
We've spent, in the U.S. has spent trillions of dollars, on Medicare or Medicaid and food stamps and all of that, trillions. And there's probably more homeless people today than ever. And I think Jordan Peterson said this on one of his things, and I'm not sure where he got it from. He said, but we produce enough food on the earth today to feed everyone.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a problem with food. There's not a problem with not having enough food.
Yeah.
And I was talking to that pastor yesterday that was a Vietnam vet, colonel in the Marines, I think.
Mm.
And he said when he was in Vietnam, he said they were someplace, and he said they were checking out the area, and he said this particular tribal or whatever you would call the leader of a village leader had this big metal building, and he told the guys, go over there and look, see what's in that metal building. I guess it could have been some weapon or something, and he said they came back and said it's locked. We'll find out who's got the key and unlock it. Anyway, it came down to it was the the leader of the village, and he said, well, that's my big metal, that's my stuff is in there. And he goes, well, unlock it or we're going to shoot the lock off, basically. So they unlock it and they open it up, and it's full of grain and food things and supplies and stuff, and it all had U.S. government stamps on it.
Mm.
And he said, what are you doing with all this? This is supposed to be going to the people. And he goes, well, how do you expect me to make a living? So he was getting it.
If I didn't laugh, I'd cry.
He was getting it, storing it in a lock and key, and then selling it to people. Selling it to his people. Anyway, that was an interesting story I heard yesterday. I was like, wow. So, and he said, you think the same thing's not going on in Gaza or wherever?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. That's just how movements work. But
yeah, it's so complicated. So it's just not that simple.
Yeah,
tax the billionaires or whatever it is. It's just not that simple. And the real solutions are going to come from the ground up. I think there's a fantastic ministry I remember from my time in Ohio. Hope, that was the word. It's like Giving Hope is here in Lacombe, but there's a center, a big facility. They just expanded it shortly after I got there, or shortly before I left, something like that. I mean, they fed so many people, and they housed so many people, and they built this great big facility so they could do more. And I'm not sure exactly what they've done since, but it just continues to serve the people. And I have a friend who started helping them with transportation by providing bikes and fixing up bikes and all this other kind of stuff so they could get to work, so they can get a job, so they can provide for themselves. But even there, there's rules. You got to have rules. Like, you can't come in drunk. You can't
be on time.
You got to be on time. You got to this, you got to that. You cause trouble inside. You got to go out. Why? Because the people who are doing the right thing need to be protected from the people that are disrupting everything. It's just so complicated. And a lot of these people have trauma that we could not even listen to for 5 minutes. So it's complicated. So if you see a need, fill the need. If there's something you can do, do it. If it's something you can't do, don't try to make it somebody else's problem. Just do what you can do and encourage others to do what they can do. But, it's not pious for you to yell and scream at everybody about what they're not doing, especially if you're not doing it.
Right.
So, and we started doing this thing. I don't know, stop me if I already said this, but I was thinking at some point, I forget why exactly I was thinking about this, but I was fantasizing about bigger barns maybe. And said, it'd be really nice.
I gotta have more Teslas.
Well, I do want to switch my wife's car out for a Tesla because I can't drive any other car now. I just hate it. It's just not the same. I do drive a Tesla. I didn't buy it for any political reason, not to save the planet, not to support Elon or whatever.
It's a better mousetrap, in your opinion.
Oh, it's not the same. You can't compare it to the other mousetraps because it's just not a mousetrap.
It's not even a mousetrap.
It's just its own experience. And so I would like to get my wife's cars flipped out, but that's
she hasn't learned how to drive your car yet. Has she?
She doesn't have to. She just has to put it in navigation and hit start.
Okay.
Anyway, so I started So I started thinking about like, oh, it'd be really cool to like, you see these people all over the place asking for money, right? And I used to kind of, I don't know, I go back and forth where I guess I should do something. If somebody asks for you, you should do it. Jesus said something like that a few times. And then I go back, nah, they're just using it for drugs or alcohol or whatever. And then I read this book about how these people are typically, dealing. There's a lot of people out there that are stuck because they've just been through so much trauma. You couldn't even sit through 5 minutes of hearing about what they've experienced. And in many cases, they don't even know. They can't even quite put their finger on exactly what it was. They just know how it feels. And so I was like, if you need to drown out that memory with, a bottle of booze, I guess use it for that. But I mean, I don't say this to them, but fine. I hope you will get past it and get real help. But if this is just to keep you going for another day, fine. Whatever you use it for. So I started thinking about that. We should just give money. We should just be generous. And then I was like, yeah, it'd be really cool. Like have $100 bill every day. I'm just going to give it away to somebody. I got to find a person a day. Give out $100. Man, that would be so cool. Why not start with 5?
All right. Yeah.
I thought $1, but dollars kind of doesn't go very far anymore.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could probably do $5. And then I tried to get my wife and kids involved. And that has not been quite as successful. It's hard to manage 6, right? So again, how can we manage a whole group of people? You do it. You do you. You help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of connected. But yeah, so I have a $5 bill every week for all of us, and we got to find somebody to give it to. Have been very lax the last several weeks for a variety of reasons, but I had them out today, and so hopefully we'll find people to give it to. But that's a start. It's you. You could contact your local homeless shelter, your local food bank, there's 1,000 ways to support this stuff, and
No, this is how old I'm getting, but for like probably 40 years ago, right? In our late teens or 20s, I was with a friend of mine, and back when $1 was, you could actually buy something for $1. We were somewhere, and this kind of homeless guy or whatever, I don't know if he was homeless or just needed some money, and he said, "Oh, if do you have $1?" And he goes, "Yeah, but if I give you $1, what are you going to do with it?" And the guy just looked at him and says, "Look, I'll be honest with you. You give me that $1, I'm going to go buy some wine or a beer or something," he said. He goes, "All right, here." He said, "At least you're honest, Yeah. And he just gave him the $1, and I was like, that was just like, I remember to this day, because it's just like this whole, I don't know, maybe it's
and who is this again?
A friend of mine.
Friend of yours, yeah. So yeah, but the next
See,
question,
I probably would have argued with him at the time. I'd have probably told him, no, you shouldn't have gave him that, because that's what he's going to do, and that's not what's good for him. But
then the next question is, why? Why is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, well,
I'm addicted. Oh, well, why are you addicted? I think sometimes what people...
We were in our 20s. We didn't know any of that stuff.
I get it. And I've not exactly figured out a way to cross that bridge,
He just did it. It was just $1. But 40 years ago, $1 was something. You could actually go buy a cheeseburger or something. You could go to McDonald's and get food for $1,
Maybe the question is more like, what pictures are you trying to erase from your head, from your mind? Like something like that.
Yeah.
What are you trying to bury? What are you trying to forget? Use it. Here you go. But I hope at some point, if you're ready, you can figure out a way past this.
Oh, I'm going to forget his name, but there's that guy on the internet. There's several of them, but there's this one guy I follow on the internet. He does that. He'll he'll go to some wherever random place in a store or something, usually because he'll just come up to somebody and say, hey, could you, I didn't quite have enough money to pay for buy this. I haven't anything to eat. I'm real hungry. Could you loan me a few dollars to whatever? And, some people are like, yeah, whatever. And then somebody will give him the money. And it's usually somebody that doesn't have a lot of, you just look at him and it's not, hate to be judged, kind of like I'm judgmental, but it's probably the person that doesn't really have a lot of money in a savings account. Yeah. And then it's his hook kind of thing, because they'll give him the money and then he'll pull out like sometimes $1,000 in cash or $500 or whatever, and he'll say, oh, no, take it back. I want to give you this or whatever. And he goes, it's this amount of money. And they're like, well, no, I thought you needed it. And he goes, no, I didn't. I was just whatever, but I think you need this more or whatever. And, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then he has the thing, and then he says, hey, he's got like one of the GoFundMe type things, and then he'll talk, and they'll ask their story, ask him about their story, and they'll give it, and then he goes, hey, if anybody wants to help out with this, and he's gone back and given people tens of thousands of dollars that people have contributed once they've heard the person's story, like they just needed a place to live, they just, they lost their job, they're living in wherever, anyway, you know how it goes.
But, it's
yeah, I think he's out kind of on the West Coast, but I think he travels around too. So, but it's anyway. If that helps you.
The poor are the most generous.
Yeah,
they don't have any barns to fill.
Right, right.
And I remember Axel, our buddy, our adopted homeless guy, not homeless anymore. One of the first things he did, when I first met him and we had conversations, and he just, hey, I'm just sleeping on the bench if that's okay. I'm like, well, as long as you're not causing problems, right? And then I don't know if it was the first day I met him, or it was very soon. He's like, they're an offering envelope, basically. How do I want to hear, this is for the church. And he put like $1 or something, or $2 into an envelope. And I didn't have the heart to tell him no.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always done that, and he gives to other people, right? So if he gets something, and people used to do that. I mean, when he was sleeping on the bench, people would drop all kinds of stuff off, food. They'd hand him a 20. They'd hand, this, that, and it was redistributed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't all always for him.
It wasn't in his big barn in the back. Huh?
Yeah. And he's like, he doesn't even hardly eat. Like, we took this trip up to St. Cloud, Minnesota in the summer, beginning of the summer. And he's like, yeah, I only eat like every other day or so. It's like, what? Like, he's just used to it. He doesn't, I don't know exactly why. He's got all kinds of issues, I'm sure, that have led him to where he is, and kind of why he is the way he is. I don't know what it is about like eating or whatever. Like, he's gotten used to it.
I won't tell you some of the stories.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, all right. Well, you got to go. And Carson says, LOL. I didn't know this, Mr. Scott. I don't know what that was all about.
So. I don't know which. I don't know what part he was laughing
I wasn't
about.
paying attention, So, but he caught something, and anyway, thanks for tuning in, y'all. And
hey, we got our second caller.
Wasn't exactly a call, but you mean the buzzing before? That was the front door.
No, I met Carson's text in.
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
The last time we got Janet called in for other reasons.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And you got all kinds of opportunities here. We got Nola's Nantucket Rescue is up here now. We've got Nobody's Nola, Nola's Icelandic Adventure. No, that's the wrong way. This way. There we go. Noel's Icelandic Adventure. This is the Open Arms book, connecting people to Jesus. Doing a book signing this Saturday at the Gospel Bookstore on the West Bank. So check it out. And we'll catch you later. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet. But Jesus is sweeter, right?